Good day. It's August 21st, 2024. Um, Everyone's a little concerned about the management watching you and all this sort of stuff. But when I started in 1981, I was in the basement of the Winnipeg post office. That was so long ago, there was a tunnel in the basement that went to Eaton's because they used to send out parcels all the time through the post office. So instead of going out to the street around with the truck, they'd come through the tunnel. So that's how long. So anyhow, I started as a driver in MSC back then, and I was a part-time weekend MSC. So I wasn't around the place that often, just 2 days a week, and we were kind of busy. So anyhow, I was on the work floor, and I said, "Hey, I'll go up, and I have to have a pee really bad." I go up to the bathroom on the second floor, and I'm walking past the toilets, and they have slots over the back of the toilets, and they had slots above the sinks and the urinals. And I went back downstairs and I said, "What the hell is that?" The people that worked there said those are spy galleries. Those are the old mirrors when they'd watch to see who was on the toilet instead of working, reading a newspaper. They were watching you everywhere. And when you looked up, if you're in an old building, you might still see the remnants of it. There was tunnels. They looked like ventilation tunnels, but they weren't. They had slots on them. And inside that whole thing was like bunks, food supplies, fresh water. They had to replenish it all the time. And all this stuff led to an escape route, including the supervisor's office. There was a door at the back of the supervisor's or superintendent's office, and it had a two-way mirror to see who's outside in case there's evil lurking in the shadows. And that was their escape. So if you look at the back of some of the older stations, they had a door that had a two-way mirror on it. That was all part of that plan. So this wasn't new, but these they called them spy galleries, and they were all around through the buildings. Especially, they were there to keep a close eye on clerks. That's what they were looking for. Some of them had a slot on the ceiling, and that looked down at the time book. It was at the counters where the clerks worked, looking down. It was everywhere. It was a crazy place, okay? And their supervisors, sometimes you could hear them walking up there, and you think, what are they looking for? What are they looking at, you know? They might have been leering at women. Who the hell knows what they were doing? So this is nothing new when the boss is watching you. We went through this for a long time. We had people following us. And as a matter of fact, and I believe it was around 1990, before one of our strikes, the CSIS, which was a branch of the Canadian government, was handing out pink bags, pink garbage bags. So no one else had pink garbage bags. These bags were, I guess, made for them, pink, right? So we said, "Oh, does anybody want one?" They went around to the different Cup W offices pretending like they're offering it to everybody in the building, gave it to Cup W. At night, they would check. Every night they go and check your disposal bin out the back of your office, looking for pink bags with stuff in it. That's how paranoid the Conservative government was of Canada Post employees. We were like not only a political football, but we were the enemy. And then along there was another guy that was spying on us by the name of, I believe, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, Grant Bristow. There was a wanted poster, a Cup W wanted poster inside the building, and that Cup W wanted poster was for this Bristow guy. He was spying, and amongst the members, he was your friend. And then as soon as he saw that poster, he hightailed it somewhere else. This stuff, as a matter of fact, I believe he started a white supremacist group in Alberta, which is still alive today. This guy was a bad dude. And that's right. He went to Alberta, started up a white supremacist group, so the government of the day could figure out all the people that were involved in it. So they all said, "Oh, let's go to that group." So they were recording all the people that were in that group through this guy that worked for CSIS. So that guy ended up packing it in, and that white supremacist group exists today. So this is the kind of people you're up against. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. The supervisors following you, hiding behind trees. There was even, believe it or not, supervisors, if you did a downtown walk, They were standing around in their street clothes reading the newspaper like you see in these old mystery movies. They were crazy. And one day, when I finally ended up getting transferred into the carrier part, I was delivering and there was a car following me, and I knew it was the supervisors from the station. And they were in street clothes in a car. I've never seen the car before. And I thought, these guys, because I worked overtime every day. My percentage of coverage was like 55, 60%, and I'd get like 300% of my mail every day. So I had overtime every day. I didn't say, oh, I'm going to run faster. I said, I'm going to work longer and work smarter. So anyhow, I'm delivering to this house, and someone answers the door, and I knock on the door, and I said, I think there's somebody following me, and I have checks today to deliver. So I'm a little concerned. If that car follows me, if you keep an eye on it, if I head that way and that car is following me and creeping up behind me and then following, I'm going to walk around the corner and see if they make a turn to follow me. Phone the police, because that car is following me. So anyhow, as it turns out, the police came, because the guy was following me, had them out of the car, and I'm peeping around the corner from a side street, and the police had them with their hands on the hood of the car. And then they said they had to identify themselves, who they were. So anyhow, the police came and talked to me and said, oh, don't worry, that was just your supervisors. And I told them, if they want to know what you're doing, ask you. You don't have to follow you around. It's ridiculous. So anyhow, that was pretty funny. But there's a lot of stuff like that. A lot of stuff that Canada Post was spying on the employees like they're the enemy. We have a collective agreement. And especially for carriers. Your percentage of coverage for the day is what you got during a volume count. So in theory, anything over that, anything, is overtime if you want to work it. And they can say, oh, I'm not going to pay you. Yeah, you are going to pay me. It's against the law in Canada to not pay somebody for working. So there's a whole lot of issues there. But the one issue is, the more work you get, the more money you get. So those people that just keep running as they pile more work on you, well, good for you. But I used to have all my Christmas money, my holiday money, especially when it started around October. It was like every day pounding away with overtime and then taking overtime on another route, which they said I couldn't do. And I said, oh yeah, well, maybe you should read the collective agreement. So anyhow, I was no stranger to that. I've pretty much been followed and harassed my whole time at Canada Post, and I'm always come up the winner. I've had many supervisors fired, transferred, and I'll tell you before I pack it in, an incident, and Sister Judd knows this. I was working in Campbell River, and as a relief, so I went from case to case, doing walks. So I ended up going to this walk, and open the drawer, and there's elastics in there. They look like they were off of vegetables, newspapers, who knows what the hell they were, junk. So I went to the supervisor, who was let's leave it at that. He ended up getting transferred to Whitehorse. I went to him, I said, I need some more elastics. And he said, so he goes back to the case with me, and he says, oh no, what we do in here is we separate them and find the good ones and use them. Meanwhile, there was women that in there that worked that didn't want to say anything because they had, I'll leave you alone, you can do what you want. They were tying up their mail with the elastics, and it was snapping them in the breast. It was rated breast level. So I said, this is enough of this. So they said, are you going to get elastics? Going to give me a box of elastics? No. Okay, fine. Have it your way. I'll just do what I have to do. So I sent a letter to the president of Canada Post, a registered letter to the president of Canada Post, explaining my situation after I went to the stationery store and bought a box of elastics. I actually bought 2, and I sent the bill to Canada Post in Ottawa. And I forget who was on at the time. It was around, that would be around 1994, around there. I don't know who the president was at the time, but I got a letter back apologizing for the supervisor's behavior, and that's unacceptable. We supply you with the tools you need. So anyhow, he came up to me the following day with money to pay me for the elastics. So I said, well, I'll give you the change back because I don't want the change. He says, oh no, you can keep the change. It was like $1.50 or something. I said, you know what? You can stuff your change. And anyhow, he got removed. So I've had a lot of supervisors removed where places where I've been. If their behavior falls out of anything beyond stuff in our collective agreement, or something like that, those elastics, for me to grieve it, I would have to take pictures and witnesses and blah, 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 and then wait for the grievance to be heard, because Canada Post stalls on grievances. And they have a problem with their own supervisors with their bad behavior. So depending on what the bad behavior is. So anyhow, I said, you know what, I'll just do it my own way. I don't care. I've had enough supervisors in trouble. And guess what? The guy was removed. I got the proper elastics. And guess elastics for everybody. Who wants them? I got boxes and boxes of them. And that's what the supervisor did, tried to be the good guy, and they were all laughing at him. So anyhow, that's what you got to do. You got work smart. If you think I'm doing good, look at me hopping along, I'm doing fine. You're doing fine now because you're maybe in your 20s or your 30s. Try doing it when you're 55 or 50. Different job. Because as you move on, as you step along, there's more and more stuff being taken away from you in the way of time values. And that whole issue we had talked about, the SSD, the thing with that was, the SSD, they wanted to get rid of the cull mail sort for clerks to nail them. There was lots of clerks that did city sort. And that city sort was a bonus to the people in your city or your town. The mail was got back to them in about wherever it was going in town a day later. So anyhow, that was an attack. And it was an attack because they wanted to get into SSD sort, right? So single delivery sort. I think a single sort delivery, something like that. I don't know. I didn't follow it. Anyhow, so the thing was that, okay, so they go back and you say, oh, well, the clerk's lost their job. I feel so bad. No, you lost the job. You used to get credit for picking up mail, extra mail in the morning from your cases. You had all these cases that had your mail in it because there was like 5 or 6 clerks or maybe sometimes 3 sorting. And you had to pick up from the slots and pick up magazines. All that's gone. That was a value. That wasn't a nuisance. It was a value. That's gone. So these are the things, when you see Canada Post cutting something, you don't say, oh, well, they just found it redundant. No, it's an attack, which creates another attack, which creates, in their mind, more control over you because now you're running scared from them. I've never been afraid of them. That was my Lou Leachman, my hero. I'll always remember him. And I have taken the firing and suspensions because that guy said to me, they cannot fire you for doing your job, only not doing your job. So you'll never catch me not doing my job or wandering off the line of travel or whatever. You never caught me doing that. They had no reason to fire me. That was their problem. Oh yeah, I'll get you. They said, well, you know what? You want to carry on like that? I'm going to make you come back for lunch. I said, I do come back for lunch. I don't know what you're going to make me come back for my coffee break. I want the taxi time. So this is where it all comes in, right? So you lose, let's say with your private vehicle, you lose money. You say, oh, well, I'm getting $900 or whatever that lousy fee is for that. That's fine for the urban, or what are they called? The old rural routes, right? The older ones. That's the bonus for them when they start getting paid for the vehicle. But when you get paid, you're getting paid to go out to your first stop that a cab would take you, come back from where the cab went right back to your car and then back. Same in the afternoon. Well, as soon as you start with the monkey business, they start dwindling away on this stuff, right? So there is no afternoon, or there is no this, there is no that. And you say, okay, now, because you said I want to use my car, and he wants to use his car, and she wants to use the car, and everybody wants to use the car, taxi drivers have been laid off. And guess what happens, or got rid of? And they can't find taxi drivers. So combine that with the Uber, taxi drivers are under attack. So you want to go somewhere late at night and you can't get a cab, guess why? Because jobs like what you did is got rid of cabbies. Yeah, it made you feel bad. I can zip around in my car. Yeah, well, cabbies doesn't have a job anymore. Same thing with Uber. You go with Uber, they're not even regular, they say they're not employees. They end up taking jobs away from cabbies. So at night, unless you're a member of the club, you can't flag down an Uber. You can't even call an Uber. So things that you create now, Canada Post always says, what's down there? What else is coming this way? That's what they worry about. So you got to think, you know, we're sometimes playing checkers and they're playing chess. I'm not talking our executives of the union. They know what they're talking about, and they warn you, and you go, "Oh, whatever." It's all more paranoia stuff. It's not whatever. They know, and they know the motive. They know the employer, and they are one tough union. So anyhow, I thought I'd explain that whole thing about someone spying on you and watching you. This isn't anything new. It started from day one when I worked. So, and before I close, I'm going to tell you a dumb story. Down in the basement of the Winnipeg plant, there was a conveyor belt that was, I guess, pretty high, but it was you could get certain types of trucks down there, but you couldn't get a 5-ton. So every time somebody would make a left turn and go down and hit the conveyor belt that was going through the building, they'd hit it, damage the truck. And Canada Post doesn't carry comprehensive insurance. They only have liability, which they're required by law. So Canada Post, that's why you're wondering if they ever fix anything. It's because they have to pay for it themselves. That's why. So anyhow, they kept hitting it. So I said to the supervisor, and this is ridiculous, because 5 tons, we were using 5 tons. Somebody, by mistake, a new guy, makes a turn and goes down because he forgot that he doesn't have a 5-ton in or what do they call those? Those big box trucks. He's got a 5-ton, which is taller, so he'd go down that way. So they said, I said, why don't you put a big sign there, certain types of trucks only, no 5-ton trucks, no tall trucks. Then they have he says, mind your own freaking business. I said, well, okay. So what did they do? They cut the top off the 5-ton, cut about 1.5 feet off the top of the 5-ton. So when the drivers would get in the truck, and they'd turn around to take their parcels out of the back, they'd hit the pin that comes down on the door closure, knock them out on the floor. So then it was a big, massive complaint. So what did they do? They gave them a helmet. White, the white construction helmets. So they gave it to them, and I'm saying, man, these people are just... So that's what you're up against. You're up against boneheads and devious. Boneheads are at this level. Devious are up here in Ottawa. So yeah, the supervisor says, I'm on your side. I'm behind you. Yeah, way behind me. I've seen it before. You're way behind. I never said that. I never said you could do that. So that's the way they act. Just be cautious. And remember, we're playing checkers right now with some of our members. They're playing checkers because they don't know the strategies. National office is playing chess. So anyhow, I thought you might those stories. Oh, that was so funny. And eventually they said, put up a sign that said, don't go down that ramp because the overhead. Anyhow, so have a good day. Try not to take this whole thing too serious. Look after your best interests of you and your family. Do not take it too serious because the worst has already been proposed. Right? It's not going to get worse than this. This is their proposal. So you could stop the worst. You could stop it and say, you know what? I don't want that. So that's their proposals they threw out. So that's what it is. The worst has happened. Like a grievance. You get in trouble, they file a grievance. Okay, why get all worked up about a grievance? I don't get it. I've never got worked up about them because the worst has already happened. They can't kill you. The worst they can do is the 1-day suspension stays. Big deal. But 99 times out of 100, you win your grievance because, remember, boneheads, smart people. So this is what happens. So, and this business about people engaged in rats in the workplace. And I think I've said this before. It's around 2008. Canada Post started hiring family, started hiring neighbors, cottage neighbors. Then they went to the fitness clubs. And the fitness clubs, they started hiring there because you know what? Those people don't injure themselves. They're physically fit. Yeah, guess what? Most of them ended up on WCB, PPD'd, or leaving. So Canada Post has had some wacky ideas over the year, but the reason they started hiring family is to be a rat in the workplace. So when those people are in the workplace and they say to the boss, well, you know what? I'm going to file a grievance. Oh, you are? After I got you a job? I got you a job here. You'd be homeless. I got you the best job in the country, and that's the thanks I get? And that's their tactic. So play chess. Stop playing checkers, and have a good day.